Hey guys, it's Ms. Binion with Flip Video Cold War 1. Alright, so we're covering a new unit, Cold War, and we're going to cover Learning Target 7.1, discuss the outcomes of the Yalta Conference and Potsdam Conference, and the reasons for creating the United Nations. And we're going to talk about the competition between the two superpowers. You're going to learn all this information that's on these graphic organizers on your Learning Target sheet, so go ahead and fill those out with it as you go. So fill out your notes and then fill this out. How does fear threaten freedom? That is the question we are looking at today. So let's check it out. Alright, so at the end of World War II, you had the Yalta Conference, which is one of your vocab words, so make sure you know it. It's where the big three, Churchill, Stalin, FDR, so Great Britain, Russia, Soviet Union, and America meet at Yalta, Russia to determine what's going to happen after the war. This is before the war actually ends, so make sure you know the difference between Yalta and the one that's coming up called the Potsdam Conference. So they're going to agree to establish war-torn nations, and they're going to divide up nations that were left. Stalin agrees that to help the United States against Japan as long as the United States defeats Germany. This is also going to create the United Nations. And here's a picture of these three. So we have Churchill and his big hat, we have FDR, and we have Stalin. And this is right before FDR dies. Okay, so, sorry. The effects of World War II, we know millions of people are killed. The Allies now occupy parts of Japan and parts of Europe, and this conflict began between the Soviet Union and other allies over the fate of Eastern Europe. The biggest effect is the United States and Soviet Union emerge as the world major powers. Woo! Okay, so end of the war, or is it? Potsdam Conference, another vocab term, is where they're going to meet up at the end of the war and they're going to decide what they're going to do with Germany. So first they decide they're going to divide up Germany into 4 different zones. They're also going to divide the city of Berlin. And the Soviet Union is going to control 1/3 of it, and the remaining 2/3 of Germany will be controlled by the United States, France, and Britain. They also decide that they're going to get rid of Nazi influence and those who had committed crimes during the war. And so this is going to be held in Nuremberg, Germany, and they call this the Nuremberg Trials. All right, so here's Germany, as you can see right here, and you can see Soviet Union controls this area. You have Great Britain controlling this area, you have France controlling this area, and then you have the United States controlling this area. Now, this is Berlin. This is where it is divided up here. As you can see, the U.S., Great Britain, and France, and then over here is the Soviet Union. Berlin. Awesome. Okay, so this is what Berlin looks like. It's divided between East Berlin and West Berlin, and we're going to talk about the Berlin Wall and how that divides the two, and it's divided up exactly the same. But keep in mind that the Soviets will have a communist government, and the French, British, and Americans all have democracies, capitalist democracies. Alright, so tensions start rising after World War II. The Soviets want Eastern Germany and the lands that Germany had occupied, Poland and Hungary. Joseph Stalin agreed to let them choose their own government. However, they're afraid that he's not going to do that. That he's not actually going to let them choose. Which leads to the Cold War. 1945 to 1991. The players in the game, United States of America versus the Soviet Union. What is the Cold War? The Cold War is competition that developed between the U.S. and the Soviet Union for power and influence in the world. This lasts 45 years between 1946 and 1991. The Cold War is not an actual war. It is a war that is fought with threats and angry words. Now, there are wars that happen at this time, but they don't actually, it's not the United States versus the Soviet Union. They will be behind in other wars. And this is also going to develop into the nuclear arms race. Okay, so Cold War, think about giving someone the cold shoulder. That'll help. Alright, during this time also, the United Nations, like we said, was founded, and it's formed at the very end of World War II. This is going to replace the League of Nations, and it's going to be a peace council that will help stop wars. Okay, it gives the power of the United Nations to use force to end wars. These are the major players in it: USA, USSR, UK, France, China. All of those are very important to know. All right. Post-war goals. This is where you can fill out on your Learning Target sheet those goals. The U.S. goals are a democratic Europe and a capitalist European economy. Soviet goal are they want to protect their own interests and security, and they want a communist Europe. So you can see the difference here. We have communist versus capitalism, and one believes they're right, the other believes they're right, so they want to influence those parts of Europe that Germany have left. All right, so that brings us to what we call the Iron Curtain. So you can see everybody in green over here is communist, and everybody over here is a democratic, non-communist nation. And so this line right here is what we call the Iron Curtain. What is the Iron Curtain, you ask? Thank you for asking that. It is East versus West Europe and Asia. So divided communist and non-communist Europe. Churchill uses this phrase in his 1946 speech, and he describes all the nations under the Soviet domination behind the Iron Curtain. And I want you to think for class, why would he use the word iron? And this is like a border that kept people in and out because a lot of people were trying to escape the communist countries. All right, and this is where divided Germany is in Berlin. Okay, here's Berlin and divided Germany. All right, so what's happening in Berlin at this time? So as we said earlier, Berlin was also divided just like Germany was divided. And here's that picture right here of East Berlin and West Berlin. It looks the exact same as the Germany one. And so basically on August 12, 1961, this was before the borders were closed. 2,500 East Germans crossed over to West Berlin. And the leader of East Germany wanted the crossover to stop. So what did he do? He made a barbed wire fence in about 24 hours and after all these people came over. And this is going to turn into the Berlin Wall. Many people lost their lives trying to escape under, over, and through the wall. The wall was actually used as propaganda for the West, so to show that like the communists want to keep their people in. And this wall will remain for 28 years. We're going to discuss it a little bit more in class, but just so you know, West Berlin's economy prospered and East Berlin's weakened. On one side of the wall, it'd be very poor, and on the other side of the wall, in West Berlin, it was not poor at all. The wall was 28.5 miles, and there was barbed wire that later, this barbed wire was later replaced with concrete. Around the wall was a no man's land of towers, landmines, barbed wire, and structures to destroy tires. Here is a picture of the wall. On one side, this is obviously the people over here are putting the wall up, so that's the communist side, and the non-communist side is just standing there watching. A lot of people wrote on the wall about trying to free Berliners, because if you were caught crossing it, you were shot and killed. That's it for today. I didn't make 6 minutes, but I made 7, so woo! See you next time.